So this is going to be my last video over the Los Angeles history, at least for now. But before I close this series, there's one question I should really ask people. What does the history of Los Angeles and the story of people who were later classified as Black, Negro, or colored matter today? I'm going to tell you. Because when people start to look closely at the records, you realize something important. Much of the identity that people carry today was shaped by government classification systems, not necessarily how communities originally understood themselves. In California, long before the United States took control of the region, indigenous nations lived across the land that would later become known as Los Angeles. The Tongva, the Chumash, and other indigenous people had lived there for thousands of years. And then Spanish colonization began in the late 1700s. Under Spanish rule, officials used a racial caste system to classify people. Instead of recording tribal identities, people were often labeled using colonial categories like Indio, Mulatto, Negro, or Mestizo. These labels were part of a bureaucratic system designed to organize society under colonial rule. Later, when Mexico governed California, similar racial classifications continued in official records. And then in 1848, the United States took control of California, and a whole new classification system replaced the old one. American census records simplified identity into a few categories: white, black, mulatto, and Indian. The complexity of earlier communities was reduced to a handful of boxes on government forms. And over time, many families whose identity had once been recorded in different ways were placed into a single category in an official record. That process of classification shaped everything that came after. It influenced where people could live, who had access to land ownership. It shaped housing policies like racial covenants and redlining. And it even affected how history itself was written. Understanding that process matters today because identity, land, and history are deeply connected. And when records change how people are categorized, it can change how their history is remembered. That's why research into genealogy, archives, mission records, census documents, and historical maps continue to be so important. It helps uncover stories that were often simplified or overlooked in official narratives. Los Angeles is a powerful example of this. The city that many people know today was shaped by indigenous communities, colonial systems, migration, legal battles over housing, and the persistence of communities determined to build lives despite discrimination. From Sugar Hill to Berkeley Square, from racial housing covenants to redlining, from beach access struggles to the story of Bruce's Beach. Each piece of history reveals how policies and classifications shape the city. But it also reveals something else. Communities build businesses, neighborhoods, and culture despite those barriers. And their stories remain part of the foundation of Los Angeles today. And when we study these histories, we're not just looking backwards, we're understanding how the past shapes the present and how knowledge of the past can help inform the future. Because history isn't just about what happened, it's about how we understand who we are and where we came from. And the deeper we look into the records, the more we realize there are still stories waiting to be rediscovered. You know, I learned this stuff by being in Los Angeles and doing the research. But you can learn this stuff too. And the books, I've been pushing them since I've been on this platform. For this particular video, if you want to know more about what we talked about today, you need to run and pick up Erased, The Untold Stories of America's Indigenous People, because it tells you all about this kind of stuff. I'm going to put the link in the captions just in case you're interested. But doing your genealogy, that's something else that's very, very important. That's why I would also grab Bloodlines and Belonging. It's my book. It's a step-by-step guide on how to do your genealogy. And knowing who you are, finding that paper trail, it matters so much. The DNA doesn't always give you the answers because the DNA has an algorithm that sticks you into the closest category if there's not a category for Indigenous people. And many times there's not. So I'm going to put the captions for the books. I'm going to put the links for the books in the captions. You guys go pick them up and have a great day.